There's a lot of talk about Scandinavia at the moment. What? Their food is setting the gastronomic world on fire.
It goes back in the fire? Yeah. That's insane.
Nordic noir dramas have us glued to our screens. And Sweden, Norway and Denmark are officially 3 of the happiest countries in the world. I want to find out why.
I can smell it. I can smell it from here.
Is it their connection to nature and their breathtaking landscapes?
Having a good morning?
Their spirit of cooperation?
It's about trust, that we actually do trust each other.
And does the famed dark side of Scandinavia really exist? To crack the Norse code, I'm about to immerse myself in Scandimania. This time I'm in Norway. It's the Scandinavian country I know the least. It seems something of an enigma. It's famous for its stunning fjords.
I don't think any postcard would do justice to this view.
And of course, for its fishing.
There you go.
Thank you.
Its food is steeped in mysterious traditions. But a new, confident Norway is emerging, with modern tastes and trends.
It's amazing. Just lovely.
They're even reinventing television.
7 timer og 4 minutter. Norgeshistoriens lengste dokumentar.
It used to be a poor country, but the reality is that Norway is now one of the richest nations on the planet. And its incredible prosperity is all down to one thing: oil. So what effect is £500 billion of oil money having on a modest country like Norway? My journey begins in Bergen on the west coast. Traditionally the heart of the fishing industry and famed for its early 18th century buildings. But this historic port is now mostly used for the supply vessels that service Norway's oil rigs. The North Sea oil started to flow here in the late 1970s, rapidly transforming Europe's poor relation into its wealthiest uncle. 70,000 people work on Norway's oil rigs, but going offshore is not without its risks.
Today I'm taking part in an emergency oil rig evacuation procedure, and as far as I understand it, it involves being inside a completely sealed lifeboat that's kind of shot into the water from a tower. So I think this tower over here, I can see the orange base of the lifeboat. It's all loaded up and ready to go. I can't see anybody though. I don't know where everybody is. Oh my God. Well, what's this one then? So that's just the nursery slopes. This is the real deal. And I'm starting to think that maybe this is my ride today, not this. And it's about twice as high. Oh my goodness. Look at the angle. That's insane. When that hits the water, there's going to be quite a jolt. Still, it's all about safety. What could possibly go wrong?
I'm going to be taking the plunge, along with a group of authentic Norwegian oil workers.
Boot fits. Okay, ready to go. Is it a bit like a fairground ride?
In a roller coaster, you know, you see it, and now it's going over. There, it's just, now it's happening.
It's pretty sudden. Yeah.
This lifeboat will drop from a height of 30 meters into the water below, just as it would during an emergency evacuation from an oil rig.
I can lend you a hand to squeeze if you're getting scared.
Oh, that's very kind.
You will see a red flashing light. That means we're putting pressure on the releaser. Everybody just please remain seated with the seatbelts fastened.
We're already at a very steep angle. It's quite weird getting into a seat. It's already tilted about 45 degrees. I've never been so tightly strapped in for anything before. I feel like an astronaut or a racing car driver.
Listen up, everybody. This is a message on behalf of the coxswain. We are now given permission to perform a free fall.
Okay, that's the engine. So we're not far off now. Feel the whole thing vibrating. Guess I'd rather be in here than in a burning oil rig. That was great. That was great. Free falling. It didn't last long, but that was quite a sensation. My heart's beating quite fast now, and it's just a real moment of free floating like a spaceman. And then quite a gentle, sudden change of sensation as we hit the water, but it wasn't a sudden jolt. It was a kind of whoosh. It's good. Can we do it again? This kind of training is an important part of an undoubtedly demanding job. But with an average annual salary of over £100,000 and a work schedule of only 2 weeks in every 6, it's not hard to see the appeal. On your 4 weeks off, what do you do?
I got completely different hobbies. I have some vintage Volkswagens.
Beetles or camper vans?
Beetles.
Right.
It's not completely different because it's mechanics, but it's had nothing to do with work.
Do you think people who work on the rigs offshore generally get to spend much more time with their families? You spend whole days at a time with your families and your kids?
Yeah, especially when they are small, you know, because then you can stay with them all day.
Yeah. The idea of 2 weeks' work always being followed by 4 weeks' holiday, who wouldn't want to go for that? And of course it has proved hugely popular here in Norway, and it draws some of the most talented individuals in society into this extremely important industry. But I can't help wondering whether that might also create some kind of a talent drain. What might all these people have been doing if it wasn't for the oil industry? Could they be stimulating whole new businesses and industries for Norway? Might future-proof it against the day when the oil runs out? But unlike so many other oil-rich countries, Norway is extremely restrained with its oil wealth. Bergen's skyline is more Cornish fishing village than Dallas or Dubai. Most of the £500 billion oil revenue is invested in ethical funds to protect the country's future. They spend less than 4% of it a year. So where does this Norwegian restraint and modesty come from? I'm going to read something from a book that almost all Norwegians have read. Or if they haven't actually read the book, they've read this bit. These are the so-called laws of Jante. You're not to think you are anything special. You're not to think you are as good as us. You're not to think you are smarter than us. You're not to think you are more important than us. You're not to think you are good at anything. It's a pretty austere, almost repressive set of ideas, really. And I'm sorry to say, I think I fall down on most of them. You're not to think you're good at anything? Well, I like to think I'm quite good at cooking. Seriously, though, you wonder whether a set of ideas like this might be holding Norwegians back a bit. This is an incredibly prosperous nation, but is it perhaps lacking a little ambition? The Janteloven are taken from a work of fiction from 1933. But this social code is still very much part of the Norwegian collective psyche. And in many ways, Norway remains an old-fashioned country. Before the oil, Norway was built on its commercial fisheries. And Bergen's harbour was the epicenter of the industry. And I can't come here without taking a look at how the powerhouse industry of Old Norway is faring today. So I've arranged with a local chef to go on a fishing trip a little way up the coast. Hi, Christopher. Hi, how are you? Christopher Hartuft is the owner of Lisverket, which has gained a reputation as one of the best restaurants in the country. He likes to source his seafood from as close to Bergen as possible, unlike some of his competitors. Do a lot of traditional restaurants just target the high-end fish, the turbots and the cod?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also what is considered high-end. Like, you'll find sea bass on the menu here.
But they're probably using farmed fish from the Mediterranean.
Yeah, exactly. why would you use a Mediterranean farmed fish here? It's crazy.
After oil, fishing is still Norway's second largest export industry, employing 28,000 people in a fleet of around 6,000 vessels. But Norway has been more successful than most of Europe in managing its fish stocks in a sustainable way.
Our cod fishery is probably the best regulated fishery in the world.
And of course, you don't discard fish in the Norwegian fisheries.
It's illegal.
Christopher is hoping to serve hake in the restaurant tonight.
Here comes the net.
And these tangle nets are an effective way of targeting the species.
This is tricky, this. How do you get that out? I keep catching myself. These are really big mesh nets. We're not catching any small fish at all. They're all a really good market size, including yet another fine hake. There you go.
Thank you.
Another prized fish still thriving in these waters is the monkfish, a fearsome creature that needs careful handling.
Whoa!
Look at that.
I would not put my arm in that mouth.
Look at that.
Sound advice as its huge jaws snap shut around its prey in a fraction of a second.
And this one? Ah! Mistake.
Uh-oh, shit.
Just open.
Okay.
Yeah, just a few little teeth marks, but didn't get through the skin.
Well,
I can smile now, but I was worried there for a moment.
if someone handled you like that, you'd probably bite them as well, huh?
With all the nets hauled, we're heading back to port, while I've still got my fingers.
The Norwegian North Sea fisheries might not be what they once were in terms of driving the whole economy of the country. They've definitely lost out in that respect to the oil industry down the years. But they've still got a lot to be proud of. They're commercial, but they're also sustainable, and they're still genuinely prosperous. Right. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Norway's fishing industry may have taken a back seat to its oil industry, but the oil wealth means expensive restaurants like Lidsverket are booming. So we need to crack on and prepare that hake.
Busy tonight?
Super busy. Lunch was the busiest day we've ever done here.
And we were out fishing.
That's right.
I have to say that's one of the most beautifully taken hake fillets I've ever seen.
Thank you.
Perfection.
Under Christopher's watchful eye, it's my job to trim the fillets for service.
Should I just take a little bit off there for you, or are you happy with that?
All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
How many Norwegians do you have working in the kitchen?
All our apprentices are Norwegian, and our cooks are European and from abroad.
Have you found it hard to recruit into the kitchen from Norway?
Yes. If you target your career towards the oil industry, you make more money and you have a lot more time off.
So it's a symptom of how well Norway's doing. It's hard for you to get people in the kitchen.
Right. But at least everybody can afford my food, you know?
The smiles come back. If you want to open a great restaurant, then you need to put yourself out there. But if you're Norwegian, Jante's law says, don't try too hard, don't be too ambitious.
If you say, I want to be successful, then, you know, you get cut down. Success is something that somebody else has to give to you.
Christopher's commitment to local seasonal ingredients is typical of the new Nordic cuisine that's sweeping Scandinavia.
So then we're going to work.
Generous, unhealthy amount of butter. Got some crushed garlic and some thyme in there. Just start basting.
Our super fresh hake is also served with baby courgettes and chanterelle mushrooms.
Bon appetit. Pas de fromage, as we say in Norway. Wow, look at that.
I tell you what, it's actually really tender. It's amazing. It's so full-flavored and juicy.
Super nice. The depressing thing is that now that I've had a 2-hour-old hake, it's never going to be fresh enough.
You're going to be on the boat every day now, bringing it back yourself to the kitchen.
Right.
Christopher jokingly describes his food as new fjordic. I want to delve deeper into Norway's past, so I'm leaving Bergen behind me and setting out in search of stunning Norwegian scenery, which turns out to be a little more elusive than I'd imagined.
Here we are. Ah, that is nice. I've come a couple of hours out of Bergen in search of spectacular views of the fjords. I keep getting spectacular views of the inside of tunnels.
Norway's mountainous terrain is pierced by over 900 road tunnels, stretching for almost 500 miles in total.
Oh, daylight. They do make a lovely tunnel, though, the Norwegians. I'll give them that. That is rather nice.
But as I head towards the small town of Voss, the fjords finally start to reveal themselves. They're giant passages of seawater shaped by glaciers over millions of years, now snaking inland from the sea and sculpting the iconic Norwegian landscape. This is Hardangerfjord.
I don't think any postcard would do justice to this view. The scale is astonishing. And this is the second biggest fjord in Norway. The sea is 100, well, this is the sea, but the open sea is over 100 miles that way. Incredible.
Before the road tunnels were built, the villages around here were remote and inaccessible. Combine this with the cold, dark Norwegian winter, and starvation was a real prospect, which is why there's a strong tradition of preserving food here. And the village of Voss is home to one of the most infamous of them.
I've come to meet a local sheep farmer who's got a reputation for cooking a rather unusual dish. And I suspect this fire might have something to do with it. Hi. Hi. I'm Hugh.
Eva. I'm meeting Ivar Lerny, and John Hervesholm is helping out with translation.
Oh my God. What's happening here?
Här svir med smala hove. They are burning sheep's head.
Why?
Because we're going to eat them.
Okay.
Burn away the wool so you can eat the skin also.
Okay. So this is not the cooking process. This is just the removal of the wool.
Preserved sheep's head is one of Norway's more unusual food traditions, but this machine is anything but traditional. So Ivar shows me how it used to be done.
How long does it take using this method?
20 minutes. 20 minutes per head.
Okay. So the machine saves you a bit of arm egg?
Yeah.
Norwegians are no longer starving round here, but there's still a demand for sheep's heads, and Ivar sells 70,000 of them each year. That's why he's devised a slightly more mechanized means of production. The gas-fired sizzler processes 15 sheep's heads at a time and can get through 1,000 in a day. After this, the heads are salted for a couple of days and then smoked. And Ivar's smokehouse gives a whole new meaning to the term Nordic noir.
So these have been smoked?
They have been røkt.
Yeah. Before it was smoked, it was salted and then sawn in half.
Dinner for two.
And that's the treat that's in store?
That's the treat in the store.
That's all. Thank you. Not sure how hungry I am. Here it comes.
Dinner time.
Boiled for 3 hours, the heads are nice and tender, or at least tender.
Well, it definitely still looks like a sheep's head.
It's served with boiled spuds and mashed cabbage. This is very much old Nordic cuisine, from the thrifty peasant tradition.
His nickname is the Smaller Hove King.
I'm having dinner with the sheep's head king.
Yes.
Skål!
Begynta med auga. Start with the eye.
Really? I was thinking of getting to that a bit later.
I think I'd draw the line at eyes, but Jante's law says I'm not to think I'm different from anyone else.
It's very tender. Salty, smoky, lammy.
So I bite my tongue, which turns out to be better than the eye.
Yeah, the tongue is very good. Blimey. I'm glad that's over. I mean, I totally approve of using every part of the animal, but that machine, the only one in the world, I don't think the world needs another one. Let's get out of here.
The next morning, it's time for me to leave rural Norway behind and head for the bright new lights of the capital. Well, the gentle glow anyway. This is Norway after all.
Really looking forward to this bit of the trip. 7 hours of peace and relaxation through some of the most beautiful scenery on the planet on the Voss-Oslo line.
The train track climbs through the mountains to 1,200 metres above sea level, and it's reckoned to be one of the most spectacular train rides in the world. In fact, it's become the unlikely star of a record-breaking documentary that could change the way we all watch television.
Hi, Thomas.
Thomas Hellum is the producer of a Norwegian television phenomenon, Slow TV.
This is the journey
This is the actual journey, yes.
that we are doing now.
Yes.
So this is your show that's become so famous.
That's one of our shows, yes.
Fra Nordsjøen, langs fjord og vatn til fjells, opp på hvite vidder, nedover daler og fram til sjøen igjen.
We told them about the idea. We are going to make a documentary about the Bergen Railway. Yes, that's nice, he said. And how long is it going to last? No, the whole journey. Yes, but how long is it going to last? Oh, the whole thing, 7 hours.
7 timer og 4 minutter. Norges historiens lengste dokumentar, eller egentlig lokumentar.
Your film was shown during prime time.
That was the brave thing. It started about 8 o'clock, continuing until 3:30 in the morning. About 1.2 million out of Norway's 5 million watched part of it.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. So this was actually something different that people liked.
Thomas followed up with a 5-day ferry journey and a knitting competition. All achieved record viewing figures, creating event television out of, well, non-events.
Do you think Slow TV is more interesting to Norwegians than, I nearly said than normal people, but what I mean is than other people?
No, I don't think we are that different. I think this could work in any country. And you have the London buses. Every country has some iconic...
Yeah, that's a great idea, the number 32 bus. There must be some people who did think it was quite boring.
Because it is.
As the train weaves its way through tunnels and up into the snowy mountains, it's certainly a mesmerizing sight. And maybe the reason it's been such a success on TV here is down to a touch of janteloven. It's easy on the eye and full of charm without trying too hard.
Maybe it would even go down well in the UK as an antidote to the kind of high-octane, fast-cut, glitzy stuff that we all seem so addicted to.
After 7 hours of slowly unfolding beauty, we approach Oslo.
Oslo, here we are. The capital, of course, but it's much more than that. It's changed so much in the last 10 years that it's really become the expression of Norway's 21st century self-image. And I can't wait to see what that looks like.
Oslo is a bright, gleaming city that's powering ahead into the 21st century. It's here that Norway's newfound wealth and confidence are on show for the world to see. Cutting-edge architecture makes bold statements and suggests that here, perhaps, the modesty-inducing laws of Janti have been overruled. But there are 2 young people from Norway who've arguably made a bigger impression on the outside world than any of this.
What does the fox say? What the fox say?
My daughter sent me a link to a YouTube clip last night, and she said, if you're in Norway, you should try and see these guys.
But if you meet a friendly horse, will you communicate by more?
It's the Ylvis brothers, without a doubt the most famous Norwegians on the planet at the moment.
Brothers Bard and Vegard Ylvisaker have been entertaining Norway with their musical spoofs and comedy sketches for over 10 years. But their new dance number, the Fox Song, has seen their fame go truly global.
Take it from the top.
It was the top trending YouTube video of 2013 with over 300 million hits. But despite their international success, the brothers' main focus is still on their weekly show for Norwegian TV.
Have you got 5 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Are you sure?
Oh, nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Hugh.
You want to sit at our guest?
I'd love to sit in your guest seat. Seriously, it's gone crazy, hasn't it?
Yeah. It's very funny because recently we found a post-it note in our office that we wrote as a joke that says, main goals, play the fox in every continent.
It didn't say world domination.
No, but it's, you know, it implies, I guess.
And do you know how many YouTube hits? Do you check every half hour to see what the number is?
No, we have stopped checking. Is that arrogant to stop checking? I mean, it's arrogant when you check too much as well, so.
Do you ever go back and read Janteloven to just get that in order, the whole arrogance thing?
That's good. That's research.
That's research. Yeah, that's good. Janteloven is now something we have to consult.
Yeah.
With this whole going to America thing is something that you shouldn't do, according to Janteloven.
But does it embarrass you if I say you are now the most famous Norwegians in the world?
Yes, that's embarrassing. It's not true.
Well, isn't it though? Name one Norwegian who's ever in the history of time been more famous than you are right now.
Amundsen. That's in the South Pole.
I can tell you, more people have heard of Ylvis than Amundsen in the UK and probably in the rest of the world.
This month.
That's the other post-it note.
Before Ylvis, Norwegians were certainly not famous for being famous. But they have produced their share of winter sports stars. And the Holmenkollen ski jump, built in 2010 at a cost of £30 million, is not only an expression of Norway's new wealth and confidence, it's a monument to one of the country's genuine claims to fame.
Skiing is without a doubt the biggest sport in Norway. In fact, they pretty much invented it. There are even cave paintings dating back 5,000 years with pictures of people skiing in them.
I'm here in October, and sadly there's no snow yet. But that's no deterrent to my inner Norwegian thrill seeker.
Am I good
nervous or excited?
Excited and nervous.
What they've got in store for me is a 360-metre zip wire.
Oh my God.
And now that the fog's rolled in, the end isn't even in sight.
Yeah, you ready?
I'm ready.
3.
Oh my God.
2, 1, jump!
It's literally a leap into the unknown. But if I could see how far down it went, I probably wouldn't have jumped in the first place.
Whoa!
This way of descending might make Eddie the Eagle look like a high flyer.
Oh, wow.
But for me, it's pretty high-octane stuff. Along with its architectural ski jump and gleaming new buildings, Oslo also has a booming nightlife. Here, the city's well-heeled, bright young things can throw aside old-fashioned janteloven notions of modesty and spend freely on Norway's notoriously expensive alcoholic drinks. I'm heading to Fuglen, one of Oslo's go-to bars.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm looking for Halvor.
Well, that's me.
Hey, how are you?
Barman Halvor Digernes has been winning awards for his boundary-pushing cocktails, and I'm ready and willing to find out why.
So what's really hot right now? What's the cocktail of the moment?
At the moment we're doing mushroom cocktails. We're doing
mushroom cocktails?
Doing
with wild mushrooms?
Yeah. We've been forward picking chanterelles.
Halvor's chanterelle cocktail is made using Geneva, a kind of gin with a malty base. Another key ingredient is a 35-year-old vintage sake.
Wow.
And then we have this barley wine.
3 things I've never even tasted before. They've all gone in.
This is the chanterelle syrup. And then we have this wheat beer vinegar from Denmark.
So this is stirred?
Yep.
So you just want to get that cold now? You're not trying to froth it or break it up?
Just want to keep it still.
Of course.
And then we'll add some pepper.
Oh my goodness. Skål.
Skål. How's that?
That's absolutely amazing. Just lovely. There's a dark side going on here. It's the Norwegian dark side coming out, isn't it?
It's the winter.
The woods and the winter. May I finish it? I mean, obviously not in one go. That would be undignified. But it's beautiful. Thank you.
The Fuglen Bar also gives me a chance to meet some of Oslo's young urbanites.
Hi.
That's...
I have your drinks.
There's something I'd like to talk to them about, but it's not an easy subject to broach.
Your country went through an extraordinary, completely unforeseen tragedy a couple of years ago with Anders Breivik. What were your first impressions when you heard that news?
Yeah, I was working just like the next block. So like I worked in a shoe shop and the whole ceiling just came down and like there was like smoke everywhere. And then I saw that like the building that was completely gone is the building where my boyfriend works. But he was one of the closest people to the bomb who survived. Because he was sitting on the second floor facing outwards towards the car.
On the 22nd of July 2011, Anders Breivik planted a bomb in the centre of Oslo that killed 8 people. During the chaos that followed, he travelled to the island of Utøya and entered a Labour Party youth camp dressed as a policeman. He then proceeded to shoot 69 people dead, most of them teenagers. Breivik claims he was motivated by an anti-Muslim and anti-multiculturalist agenda. His actions have been a terrible blow to Norway's fledgling confidence on the world stage.
It's just terrible. I can't believe that people have those opinions and kind of act them out.
There are groups building up who are like having these sick thoughts.
Someone who's been outspoken about the Breivik massacre is the former Justice Minister and crime writer Anne Holt.
Hello.
Her best-selling novels explore the murkier side of Norwegian society. But like many people, she found it hard to believe that the attacker was a lone Norwegian.
In the hours and possibly a few days after the tragedy of July the 22nd, one of the questions inevitably being asked is, might this have been a foreign attack?
I was absolutely convinced that this was a Muslim attack upon Norway. I jumped to it. I mean...
And everyone else did too.
Everyone else did. But it became clear the same night that this was a Norwegian man's work. And still today, I am so fascinated, if I can use such a word, of the fact that this was a one-man job. I would think it
as a crime writer, that must be a pretty extraordinary notion.
It is. I mean, first blow up the whole government quarter and then drive out and kill tens, it was 67 kids in cold blood. But I didn't think it was possible, so I jumped to the wrong conclusion. And I'm quite ashamed of that.
Well, you wrote a very powerful piece not long after the tragedy, in which you said that Norwegians need to remember that this guy is a product of Norwegian society.
That is true, and I feel very strongly that we as a nation, we are in denial of that fact. We have in very many ways isolated this as an incident, kind of a natural catastrophe. It's really weird that we do not want to go more heavily into the fact that he is a result of a political movement that also takes place here in Norway.
Breivik was sentenced to 21 years in jail, the maximum sentence in Norway. Many have speculated that he will never be allowed back into society, but that would make him an exception in the Norwegian justice system. Almost all prisoners in Norway will be released, whatever their crime, which is why the penal system here has a strong focus on rehabilitation.
I've come to a very beautiful island. Beaches, cycle paths everywhere, very comfortable accommodation. The sort of place anyone might love to stay for a Scandinavian holiday. But this island is a little bit different because, in fact, it's a prison.
The prison island of Bastøy is an hour's journey south of Oslo. But here there are no armed guards, no locks on doors, and the crew on the ferry I've just come over on are actually prisoners.
Hi.
Hello, hello. Welcome.
Karim.
Karim is one of the island's 115 prisoners.
Come in here, this is the kitchen.
He shares his house with 3 other inmates.
So this is the living room.
That is nice. That is a great room.
We have a nice view.
Yeah. You look very well organized in here, Karim. Nice TV in your room?
Yeah.
Computer. Are you online anytime you like in here?
Not in the room. We cannot send emails or chat on Facebook. This is a prison, even if, okay, we're on an island, everybody thinks it's very nice. We have the summer, but it's still a prison.
Do you mind if I ask how long your sentence is?
I said 9 years.
For?
Drugs.
Okay. And so where are you at now with that?
I've been in prison for 2.5 years now.
And this freedom you have to wander about the island, meet your friends from other houses, do you think that opportunity makes a difference to how people can then adjust when they get back into society?
Yeah, I think so. What do you want to have after somebody has been in prison? Do you want to have a more normal person as your neighbor, or do you want to have a sick person that's something because he's been too long in prison?
Some of the prisoners here have committed violent crimes. But perhaps even more startling than the apparently easygoing lifestyle of Bastøy's inmates is their reoffending rate. As Bastøy's governor Arne Nielsen points out, it's only 16%, compared to around 50% in the UK.
Here we try to build up a self-respect instead of just establishing prison regimes where we treat people like animals, because that doesn't work.
You know, people have used the phrase, this is a holiday camp.
So, what's the problem? Because the main issue for us is reducing the reoffending. You have lost your freedom, so for you experience the time here not so bad, but a place where I can live in a peaceful way and enjoy the sun and the sea and so on. What's the problem if you change your way of living?
Well, one thing seems entirely clear is you can't argue against the Norwegian system on the basis that it doesn't work, because it does work.
You can try to argue, but it does work.
They say you can judge a society by the way it treats its prisoners. And Norway treats its prisoners extremely well. And I think that's an indication that it is a fundamentally civilized and just society. Of course, if I or my family were victims of some horrible, violent crime, I might very well feel differently. But if right now someone was offering the UK a chance to switch wholesale to the Norwegian prison system, I'd grab it without hesitation.
From shiny new Oslo and the sophisticated south, I'm heading to the frozen north, where an ancient form of sea life has become the toast of new Nordic cuisine. 700 miles north from Oslo is the Arctic Circle, and I've arrived at the remote fishing community of Nordskott. Until a few years ago, this place was only accessible by boat, and it's a reminder of what Norway was like before the oil, before it was the 4th richest country in the world.
That's got to be one of the most stunning views I've seen in Scandinavia so far. And I've come here to see a friend of mine who's making a living up here, harvesting what for me is one of the most delicious of all shellfish. It's out there under the sea. So to get it out, we've got to get into the sea. And right now, it's about 2 degrees centigrade.
This old-fashioned fishing village now finds itself on the culinary map of modern Scandinavia. And it's all thanks to a Scot,
Thank you. How you doing?
Roderick
good.
Sloan.
How are you? Good to see you. Really good to see you, man. Hi, Paul. Hi. How's it going? Thank you. Great to see you. Blimey, what's the plan?
We're just going to go out to like a really sheltered spot, pick up some beautiful sea urchins.
Sounds amazing.
Members of the starfish family, sea urchins are one of the oldest creatures of the sea. They've been eaten by humans for over 3,000 years. And the urchins Rod dives for are reputedly so delicious
Hold on tight, boys. Here we go.
that they're in high demand in Scandinavia's top restaurants, including Noma. But it wasn't the urchins that first won his heart.
You're obviously not Norwegian, you're a Scot. How did you end up coming here?
I fell in love with the Norwegian.
So you fell in love with the Norwegian?
Came to Norway to make a lot of money in this rich economy, fell in love with the Norwegian, became a poor fisherman instead.
And now you're in love with Norway too?
Very much so. It's a wonderful culture that's very similar to the culture back home in Scotland. But I've been here for 16 years now.
But quite harsh conditions to be making a living out here.
That's how you see it, you know, it's like...
beautiful, but harsh.
But I love it. It's part of me. It's almost part of my soul now, Hugh.
Go!
The water's less than 10 metres deep here, so the urchins should be easy to find. To protect the seabed and conserve the urchin population, Rod harvests them by hand, taking only the biggest. He then leaves the site alone for 5 years to repopulate.
Ah, amazing. Absolutely brilliant, Rod. Thank you so much.
The best way to enjoy sea urchins is, of course, straight from the sea.
Beautiful. Extraordinary creatures.
There's about 700 species on the planet. They're not all edible, but these ones are. These are Norwegian greens. They've been on the planet for 450 million years.
Really? So they probably used to be eaten by sea-swimming dinosaurs.
They could, actually.
Wow.
Nessie.
That's the thought. This looks a little bit brutal, but I guess this is a very simple life form. That just looks so good, doesn't it?
It does.
Oh, so much of that rich orange roe. Oh, that's cold on my hand. Here goes. Ah! That is just about the most delicious thing I can imagine. They've got such an intense flavour, and it's seaweedy, but also creamy. Just unique.
You never get bored of these.
I don't think I ever would. They're very, very special.
My taste buds satisfied for the moment, we're heading back to Nordscott. Rod's asked some of his neighbours over for a sea urchin-inspired supper. We'll be serving some of our catch raw, but I'm also preparing a sea urchin butter to top some locally caught halibut.
Looks rowy, doesn't it?
It does.
It's got that flavour.
That's going to do the job, Hugh.
And then pop it in the fridge to get nice and hard, and crack on with preparing the halibut.
In winter, this part of northern Norway gets just an hour or two of daylight. Candlelight is considered essential to keep spirits high. Despite their endless coastline, Norwegians are not traditionally adventurous with seafood.
Okay, here we go.
Perhaps that's why it's taken a Scot to unlock the potential of the urchins here.
If you don't like it, no problems. Just try it. Just taste it, as I say to my kids.
First ever sea urchin over here.
Okay, it's the best. Yeah.
I think I have another one because it was really good.
The sceptical locals have been won over by raw urchins in the half shell, so I hope they'll like my roasted halibut topped with my special butter.
Sea urchin butter, that's a first for me.
It's looking pretty good here.
So now we have potato, carrot and artichoke gratin and some crispy dulse seaweed around the fish.
That's just a little bit slippy.
Dinner's a good chance to discuss some of the issues I've explored in my Norwegian journey, including, of course, oil.
The offshore-onshore life is so good and so well paid that maybe it's a bit of a talent drain for Norwegians.
You can go to many countries where they have had one economy and it's not sustainable, in particular a natural resource which is not reusable.
Which is finite.
Yeah.
One of the things I've talked to quite a few people about is janteloven. Is that now completely outdated in Norway? Is janteloven extinct?
No, it's still there. You can be successful, you're just not allowed to talk about it.
So what about Ylvis? Are they too successful?
They're not.
Not according to my children.
They started very modest. Their success are earned. And Everybody, of course, wondering what does the fox say? What does it say?
My Scandinavian adventure is almost at an end, and I've had the most incredible time. I've seen some of the most stunning scenery in the world. I've seen innovation in energy and industry. I've tasted some absolutely wonderful food, and I have to admit, I've rather fallen in love with this part of the world. Not that these countries are without their problems, but the thing about Scandinavians is they're good at dealing with problems. And wherever I've been, whoever I've talked to, I've found them upbeat and optimistic and full of pride in the country that they live in. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really have made some friends for life and got to know some countries that I'll be visiting for the rest of mine.